Hi, good morning. This is a reflection on lesson 274 in A Course in Miracles, and it says, "Today belongs to love, let me not fear." Today belongs to love, let me not fear. So it's already pointing out in the title that it thinks along, I wasn't even going there today, but something just came to mind, I guess I'll mention. So it's pointing about love and fear kind of being opposites. So it's like, not going to do any fear today. We're just going to rest with love. We're just going to see love wherever we look. And fear just won't have a home within us today. So I think there's a determination there that it's like you can't really control these things on some level. And yet it's like, just basically believe it, and it is so, and it will be so. But what I was going to say is it made me think of how love and fear are kind of on a spectrum. And yesterday, I had a half day off to go get an oil change for our upcoming road trip. And my husband has Wednesdays off. So we went together, and I don't know why this came to me, but I was taking things very, I don't even want to say that. So anyway, we were just talking, and this idea of spectrums came to me, like everything existing on a spectrum. And I asked my husband, because I wasn't initially thinking about autism, but I was thinking about spectrums. And so I asked my husband, do you think I'm on the spectrum? And it wasn't meant to be an autism thing, but it came out that way because that is, I think, the only well-known spectrum we talk about in that way, being on the spectrum. Like, what spectrum? Because I'm getting so abstract these days, and my husband's so sweet that I just had time to be there, and I didn't want to be on my phone, and I thought, well, let's just talk about weird stuff. So I said, do you think I'm on the spectrum? And he said no. And I was like, well, how do you know? And then I knew we were talking about autism. So I'm like, well, how do you know? What even is a spectrum? Where does it start? Where does it end? The nature of a spectrum is like, we have to decide, does this spectrum have a 0 and a 100? And the spectrum is between those 2 points? Or is it like infinity to infinity? And he was like, and he said, no, you're not on the spectrum. And I was like, well, how do you know? What if if there's no, is there a 0? If so, and you're saying I'm not on the spectrum, I think what you mean is I'm at a 0, and yet 0 is still on the spectrum, and it contains a 0 and 100. So I'm on the spectrum, I'm just sitting at 0. He gets so frustrated, and I feel bad because I don't do it to be frustrating. I just do it to I like thinking of things. It's entertaining to me, and I don't want to be on my phone. So he was getting a little frustrated, and I was like, well, okay, then if it's not 0, and I'm not on the spectrum, so therefore it can't be 0 because you don't want me to be on the spectrum, and I'm sitting here at 0. So I said, well, then it's like infinity to infinity, and each end just approaches, like one end, okay, approaches but never hits 0. So you have to think it's just infinitely going to keep going in both directions. I think that just was over the top for him, and I was like, I guess we're done with this conversation. But it had me thinking of spectrums, and he's like, well, he's great. So he's like, well, a spectrum, he thought he had it here. This was his reasoning, and it was pretty good. He said, a spectrum is like, what did he say? A measurement of diagnosis. So it means what he was saying, the subtext of what he was saying, I can't say his argument, it was really good, but the subtext was, you have to have already been identified as, let's say, having autism in order for this spectrum to now be applied to you, so you exist within it, which was the subtext of what he was saying. So I was like, So am I on the spectrum? I still don't like why am I even talking about this? Does it relate to the lesson? I just still something in me still finds it fascinating because I believe everything is everything, and there's levels and dimensions to every experience that we're having, and where you are, it's basically dimensions of realization, like an understanding. What I mean by realization is your own felt embodied sense of understanding what something means to you. So dip and he and I are rarely rarely at the same level, and that's why I love talking about things with him, because we're talking about different things even though we're in the same conversation, and it's endlessly fascinating. So this whole idea of spectrums was like, well, every, everything's on a spectrum of something, of everything. Or something's like, I don't know, it's getting real trippy up in my head. It's so fun to think about. So anyway, this whole love and fear, I've already started to think about, well, yeah, in some sense, they're more opposite ends of a single continuum, where love is at one end and fear is at the other, and where like things kind of are somewhere between the two. We are always have like sensations or feelings or emotions that exist somewhere between love, which I think of as more of an opening, expansive creation kind of energy, and fear, which is more like contraction, tearing down, bottling up sort of energy. So it's like, okay, what's our map? What spectrum are we talking about when we're having conversations with each other, even? Like, what are we talking about? What map are you on? That's another question. Is like, are we on the same map here of what we're talking about? What our existence, like what our experience has been up to this point, that's informed where we are right now, that informs what map we're on. And the map means, how are we navigating this world that we're moving through? And so I feel like I'm constantly trying to find new maps. And I know that's why having conversations with my husband is so fascinating for me, because I can endlessly revisit everything with him, because I'm constantly trying to find, I'm constantly, oh, here's a new map. Now let's talk about everything we've ever talked about. But now I have this map of like that I'm approaching things from. And he might still be on the same map. And so therefore the intersection of the two, the ways we come at the same old thing, is just endlessly fascinating. Does that make sense? So anyway, I'm sitting here at lesson 274 out of 365. And this morning I did I did the math, and I was like, I actually literally got out the calculator on my phone, and I was like, how far in am I? Because these lessons keep conceptually repeating and repeating. They just use different words, but underlying it's the same thing. It's basic, it's wonderful, it's beautiful. I love it because it's tearing down any barriers that are still left. It's like finding the new map, finding the new map. It's like I thought about this even with body work. I talked to some of my clients about it, where they felt it in their own body, and I'm feeling it in their bodies, where we've been working together trying to like get through some really, really sustained built up tension in the body that has been growing so gradually and long term that it's not a one and done treatment, right? So we've been just it's some clients are one and done. Some are like, we're just going to show up and we're going to do the thing. We're going to show up again and do the thing. And so there's one particular client I talked to this about consistently, because we've been working together like a long time. And we got to this point where I was surprised by what I was feeling, and she was surprised by what she was feeling. And I was like, this is amazing, because I was like, oh my God, all of a sudden it felt like we were on a new map. Like the persistent tension that was so broad, so pervasive everywhere was no longer there. What had emerged or revealed itself were like specific regions. And that's what, in my experience, most of us walk around with who get body work regularly, at least, where it's semi-regularly even, where it's like, oh, this is acting up, I gotta go take care of it. Like very specific spots, even if there are a lot of them, there's borders, there's boundaries between them, versus what I was feeling before was just everywhere. It was like, how do I find my way in? And now it's like, oh my God, what's revealing itself, or like, it's like a whole different body I'm working with. And so she's elated because it's like we're moving the needle, at least that's her perception. And then I'm the one always like, well, who knows, like second guessing everything just to make sure I've got everything thought about, covered, considered. And then it keeps happening now over and over. And I'm like, okay, what map are we on today? I didn't even think that was going to come up, but it seems related in my head. And then it's like, I think about back to the spectrums of experience too, like, pain scales. Where are we on the pain scale? Where are we on, how many days did it take between treatments for you to start feeling things creeping back in? Like, I feel like we're constantly trying to navigate our world on maps and spectrums. And like, because we're always, and what's interesting to me is that there's no permanence in this world. Like Buddhism 101, I don't even know about Buddhism, but it's like there's nothing permanent in this world. Everything's constantly in flux, changing. And yet our humanness says we're trying to like stake a flag and stuff and say, and like pin stuff down, and like, it's like putting up a tent and you're nailing in the stakes to like keep something in place. But the winds of change are always blowing your tent over, right? It's always uprooting your stakes, and it's like, ha universe goes wink. And then, so I'm like, there's no permanence in this world. So it's constantly, I think, valuable to ask ourselves, what map am I on today? Like what lens? That's another way to look, another analogy. What lens am I looking through today? On what spectrum am I considering things today? Am I looking through the spectrum lens of love, fear, and where am I today? Well, I just want to be on the love end of that spectrum. And so let me pull out my love map. How can I approach every path, go down every path with my love goggles on, So because there is no, when you think about this humanness I talked about, where we're like, I need some permanence in my life. Suffering is when I'm expecting permanence in a world of impermanence, right? That's I think the literal definition of suffering. So I think, well, why would we want to keep using like my same old tattered up map that it's like spilled coffee on, I can't really read it anymore, the rats ate some holes in it, and I really don't, like, throw it away. What map do you want to be on today? You're not, like, we're not the same human we were a second ago, a half a second ago. There's no permanent self. There's no permanent even personality or like ego state. Nothing's permanent. And so I love thinking about how this sense of self, like, where do you find it? What is it? Where's the me beyond this? We'd have physical body, but where's my identity? What's the map for my identity? What map, like, why would I want to keep using the same old coffee-stained, rat-eaten map? Because the world has changed so much since I pulled that original map out. And now I'm trying to hold that permanence against something that's way different than what existed in my reality at the time I pulled that map out. And now it takes more energy and more effort and more angst to say that's, I'm holding it firm. My stakes are in the ground on this thing. When everything's changing constantly, let ourselves change. Let the people around you change. Let them find a new map and be like, go you, look at you on your new map. Yeah. Versus like, I don't like that. You're on some other map that I don't know where you are. And this goes back to my husband. He's never like that with me. And I love, that's why we're still together. I know it. I know it because if he were such a, if he weren't able to allow me to keep pulling out new maps, like if that was just too much for him, and I always check in with him. I'm like, are you still okay with me like being a different person every second of the day? And he's like, yeah, it's like not a problem for him. But if he was, and there have been people in my life where it was a problem, and it's like, okay, then we're not a fit, right? And that's okay. So I just think it's like, let yourself change. Let the people around you change. Let them let you change. Like it's, there's no such thing as permanence. And so back to this lesson, let me wrap this crazy one up. This went off the rails a little bit, but I love it. Went off the map. This love fear spectrum. It's like, okay, yeah, that feels like to me the biggest spectrum we have in terms of our human relational world. Like I only want to connect with people on the love end of the spectrum from now on. Like the fear has no home here. Like you've heard that phrase, hate has no home here. Fear has no home here because it's just a bodily sensation, and we can sit with bodily sensations for longer than we think we can. It's the mind that dissociates us from our own bodies. That's what dissociation is at the first level, is just dissociating from sensations that we think, that we assign a thought to that says that doesn't feel good. And then we go into like a fear response. Like the fear is there to protect us from feeling things that our brain perceives are unpleasant. But like I was talking about, like if we sit with something long enough, when I do this with my clients all the time, so I see it firsthand, not just in my own body, but in theirs, in their experience of their bodies, that says, oh, I allowed myself to sit with this and it changed. And therefore then my thoughts, I don't have to believe my thoughts because my thoughts were wrong. It said, oh, I don't like that, go away. And then it was like, well, is it okay to let it exist? That's the first question. And then they say, okay, yeah, okay. And they let it exist, and immediately it changes. And it's like, see, if you allow, I have to do that to myself all the time. Okay, let's allow this. The other day I felt joy again, or I was like the joy in my body. When I was like, what is that feeling, that sensation that turned into an emotion? I was like, there's joy in my body. I felt it again yesterday and today. I was like, the more I can label it as that, as a training mechanism, I'm like, oh my God, it's there more often than I thought it was. And now things are merging more, where pain is less pain, joy is more joy, and they're kind of melding. And then I'm like, so that's a spectrum too of sensation, right? And then I've just pulled out a new map for my body. Oh, I love these analogies. They apply to literally everything if you want them to. So that's it. I gotta go. I could go on forever about everything. So anyway, thanks for being here. Bye.